Okay. All right. Welcome to week number 6. I think we are in week number 6, and we are going to talk about Richard and Brenhan's approach to, call it the LHBT approach, right? The look, the hook, the book, the took approach. Okay. Because when we're learning to teach, let's face it, you can prepare as much as you can prepare. You can study the Bible all you want. But if you have no dynamics to your presentation, your concerns are you're going to lose them, they're going to get bored. Worse is, they would not want to come back to your class. So the look, hook, book, took approach is there to help you. So in other words, now you've studied the exegesis, your day 1, that's your Monday task. Now that you've put together some of your goals, your cognitive, the second one, affective, and then cognitive, behavioral, and then you have the volitional. Okay, you've made your goals, and then on day number 3, you go to form number 3 to pray for your student because their realities may have changed. And then now you move to form number 4. This is your Thursday task, where you look for the possible learning activity on the goals in each domain. You know, are you going to do a skit? Are you going to do a drama? Are you going to do a discussion? And all of these are all limited time with specialized goals. So you want to make sure you meet them. So now you're ready to kind of put together your lesson plan. And so I want to introduce you to form number 5. Okay. Form number 5 is really your lesson plan. So if you open it, it's going to look like this. It's called the lesson planning worksheet. Okay. It doesn't look anything similar from your weeks form 2 and form 4. But the elements that needs to go here comes from your form 1, form 2, and form 4. That makes sense? Okay, good. Excellent. So I'm going to pause here for a while. I'm going to ask you all to read with me. Let's start off with Richards and Bredfeld's book. And I'm going to ask you to open to 169. 169. Okay. Page 169, the first line begins with that stands for, and what is it? Hook, book, look, and took. Right. Okay. So what is this for? Avenue of presentation, and we're just gonna move back and talk about this is what we call your plan to teach your lesson, and you're going to use the HBLT approach. Okay. Hook is where you create the desire or the interest. Like what you said, your students need to be interested. Book is where you do your exegesis. This is what Gani said, verse 1, verse 2, 3, and 4. Look is where you're asking the students to look for applicable principles and challenge them. Taste it, touch it. This is where all your goals from volition to affective, to behavior, and also to what did I forget? Cognitive. All of those goals come to this word look. Okay, and your deployment of how you're gonna do your lesson is here too. And finally, the word took has something to do with your takeaway. What does a student do after the class is done? So application is really, really important. That's where follow-up comes. Okay. All right. Let's look at these 4 elements. Okay. Let's look at these 4 elements. Before we go to that 4, I'm going to ask you to open to Newton's book. Okay. And Newton puts together these 4 principles in a very different way, but I just want to massage the hook, look, book, took principle by looking at chapter 9, which is page 149 first. 149. And there's something here that I want you to underline that is worth remembering. Look at the second sentence of page 149. Okay, June, let's start with you if you don't mind.
Second sentence, the first step of stage in the teachings process. First, priming students' heart pumps. Second, getting students to dig deeper into the word. Third, stimulating heart talk. Fourth, encouraging heart change.
So the 4 premises is pretty much identical to Richard and Redfeld's book, look, book, and took. Newton suggests we have to prime up the student. Okay, prime up the student, meaning let's pray for an interest among our students. Second that you need to do now is you're going to get the students to go dig deeper in the word. Okay, and then on number 3, you're going to ask the student to correspond with you. You're going to ask your student to dig deep with you. It's one thing for you to dig deep for your student, but the third principle is you bring your student along with you as you struggle with these passages and with these lessons. And then in the principle of took, the 4th would be to encourage a heart change. What happens from this point on? Okay. Let's look at the priming students, the hook, the first principle. What do we do with that? Why is that so important? Well, let me give you the purposes of it. Page 153. And you can just use your pen and underline some of these readings. Okay. And Gani, page 153. Why is it so important to hook a student or to create interest first? Don't teach the lesson first. Don't go to your learning activity yet. All right, but rather you want to prime him up, you want to hook them up. Why is that? 153, the first purpose. Gani, unmute your microphone.
Okay. The first purpose of the priming stage is to create an appropriate climate for learning. In most learning situations, this means a warm and accepting atmosphere in which each person is recognized and affirmed.
So that's the first reason why we need to prime up the student. When the student gets there, you now have the opportunity to recreate interest in them. And so to do that, okay, you're going to have to create the climate, right? Create the climate. Make sure it is an inviting place to learn. When you're teaching students, the worst place is when there's a lot of things going on around you. So what do you do when you're teaching young students? What kind of room are you going to place them in? Gene, grade 1 and 2 teacher. All right, first, something that they feel comfortable with, like what? Chairs, lighting. Good. And I want to suggest less distraction. That's why we don't put gadgets in front of students. I give it to you, but notice it takes us 20 minutes of distraction. I just give you the first 20 minutes just to get distracted, and once we're all settled down, we just fire away, right? To students, these gadgets are very distracting. Yeah. So especially for young students. All right, so create appropriate climate. Okay, Gene, number 2, 153. The second purpose. There you go. We want to get the attention of the students. It's time to start. Right? How does your student know that you're teaching already, that you're ready to start Sunday school? You always want to give them a cue. Some of your students they're not going to pick it up immediately, right? I know there are public school students who would say, "I's here," right? They would say that, or they would probably use mimicking the clap. Normally, the students will go. That catches their attention. They know it's about to start. Okay, so you got to have a cue for your students. Among adults, what's the cue? What's your gesture? Signal to them it's about to start.
Call them.
Call them. Sure. Okay. All right. So for adults, I normally would say, okay, hopefully you've gotten your coffee and your bread because we're about to start. That's my cue. Because I like to eat too. I like to have my bread and coffee in the morning too, Sunday morning, right? So there's a cue you want to give to them. Opening prayer could be a cue. Asking for prayer requests could be a cue. Asking people how your day went is a cue. You want to make sure, though, that you don't dwell in that because you have other things that you want to do in that 60 minutes. Danny, we'll go to the third purpose.
The third purpose of the priming stage is to bring to the surface.
So there it is. One of your immediate goal is to see what needs the students have, especially in relation to your lesson. If my Matthew 6:1-4 is about stewardship, it's about giving to God, I'm going to ask the question, I wonder what the needs are. Some of these kids don't even give offerings, right? Some of them are going to fight giving offering. They're going to say, no, that money is mine, not God's. So, right? So and not only with that, but the idea is when it comes to climate, would they be needing a pen, a paper, I'm very poor with that because I come sometimes preaching with no sermon notes for my congregation. Okay. So all of these are very important. They need to be prepared and ready. You know what? When you know what wastes time on your teaching is when you have to wait on people to get their Bible, right? You've just wasted 5 minutes of your golden time that could be reaching their heart, their mind, their hands, and their feet. All right. Bev, let's go with your page 154, the fourth principle.
Okay. The fourth principle, the fourth purpose of priming stage is to establish a goal for the lesson.
There you go.
While the
So
goal
it's
has
very important right from the very get-go. You're setting some gold standards of your 1 hour meeting. What do we hope to accomplish? That's true for students who are younger. That's true for students who are older, because you want to keep accountability of your 60 minutes. All right, Claude, why don't you read the fifth purpose?
The fifth purpose of the priming stage is to get students to express their, hold up a second. The fifth purpose of the priming stage is to get students to express where they are and what they know.
Exactly. If your text is Matthew 6:1-4, and it's all about stewardship, it's all about giving, you want to know if your students are giving, if they are sympathetic to giving offerings, if they understand that giving to God is more than their money, their time, their talents. And do they know what? And if they're supposed to give, yes, exactly. So all of these are being set up right from the very beginning. Okay. And then number 6, the sixth principle, Keiki, are you able to read?
Okay, Pastor. The sixth purpose for the priming stage of the lesson is to soften the hearts of the students.
Well, there you go. All right. Because we want to make sure that the students are ready and willing to receive the message. So in order for them to be marinated with your message, you want to really start it off right. Imagine if you started off very negative and tell them, hey, how come you guys are not on time? All right. Or you're all playing around. Listen, here's what the Bible says. Here's our Bible lesson. They're not ready. Yeah. They will just resent the message. Yeah. I remember I was teaching youth some years ago, and there were a group of teenagers that were not listening. So it kind of triggered me to fly off the handle. And so instead of pursuing my emotion, I asked myself to be excused, and I asked one of the youth leaders to say, hey, could you take over and read 2 more verses with the students while I go on the side? Of course, I didn't tell them what was going on in my heart. Really what that is I was trying to recover from my emotion so that I don't cause hindrance even more, right? It happens. The 7th purpose. All right. June, let's read the, Randy is here. Randy, go ahead, and we are in Newton's book, page 155. Go ahead and read to us the 7th purpose. Okay, let me go with June. June, go ahead and read to us, June, the 7th purpose.
The seventh purpose for the priming stage of the lesson is to stimulate or motivate the students to want, learn, be guided.
So starting on principle, purpose 7, 8, really it all geared to your lesson already. It's a springboard. Yeah. So all you do on the hook stage is you're asking, what can I do to transition my student to my lesson? Right? Which brings you to that eighth purpose as well, to springboard them into the word. You're going to state your goal, you have your big idea, and then you're asking all the students, now in the next 20 minutes, I want you all to listen because we're going to dive into the word. And then we're going to read verse 1. Does that make sense? By the time you get to verse 1, maybe 15 minutes have already elapsed. Why? Because you are creating the condition, the climate for learning. That's called, what's the word that starts with letter H? Hook. Right. Okay. All right. So, and there are many ways to do this, to create your hook. Newton gives some example. Go to page 158. Okay, Randy, if you're ready to read with us, go ahead and just let me know. In the third paragraph, or third paragraph of 158, he says, let's look at an example from a lesson of young adults based on a big idea on 1 Corinthians 6:14. It says, we need to be careful whom we pick as close friends, since the closer we get to people, the more they can influence us. Okay, so that's the big idea. 1 Corinthians 6:14 says, be not unequally yoked together with non-believers. Okay, so the big idea there is be careful that you distance yourself with people who might not have a good influence on you. So that's the big idea. Okay, now go to page 159. How does he create the hook? He says, into a large group, they would have a skit illustrating the principle, asking the group to share stories of friendships that turned out both good and bad, or sharing a case study related to a new Christian who had just moved to another city to take a job and was struggling with where to go to find a friend. So that's the hook. That's his learning activity, is to create a skit. And the skit is about trying to find out what good and bad friendships are. Okay, does that make sense? So far, so good? That's the hook. Now let's go to the book. Okay, let's go to the book. The book is now on chapter 10, which is we're now in page 163 and on, but I'm going to start reading in 164. Okay, 164. Look at the heading. Deeper learning necessitates what? Reflection, interaction, and experiential engagement. Okay, so he's saying that these are the necessary ingredient when you dive into the Word of God. Okay, I'm going to stop here for a while, because the truth of the matter is we have a tendency to follow our own style, and that is not bad. That's your style, right? It's your style to go from one verse to another, explaining one word to another, and that's a style. The only problem is that the only style necessary for that moment. Maybe you don't have to go word per word in verse 2, right? And maybe your learning activity for verse 2 could be different than lecture. Okay, so that's really what the goal for this. Let's read something here. I am in the third sentence of the last paragraph of 164. It says, while we certainly need excellent preachers and teachers who are able to proclaim the gospel clearly and authoritatively, are there not other effective ways to help people learn God's word? What's the answer? Yes, there are other ways other than preaching and teaching. What is it? In this chapter, we explore some alternative ways to help people learn other than preaching, proclaiming, or telling? Okay, look at the next part, 165, the next paragraph. It says, while Jesus taught and preached authoritatively, he also used many interactive and inductive methods. His methods depended on the context, his goals, and the condition of the hearts of those he was teaching. He used a great variety, okay, of teaching approaches to help his followers know and practice truth, including what? Read together. Ready? Begin. Lecturing, discussions, questions and answers to questions, brief statements, conversations of dialogues. How about this one? Stories or parables. He disputed or disputes, demonstrations such as signs and wonders. How about quotations? He quoted the Old Testament, right? Maxims. It's when he gives some opposing truths. Challenges, rebukes, comments, riddles, arguments, and even silence. One of the hardest things a teacher learns is to pause and to give their students a chance to process information or give them an opportunity to ask questions. All right. Any answer from Marian? No? Danny, could you all text and make sure that you're... Okay, so that is what we mean by the next section by book. You know, we want to teach the content, and sometimes your content is your verse by verse, right? So if I'm going to develop a content on Matthew 6:1-4, what is my teaching content? Well, I'm gonna outline it. When we say teaching content, we want an outline. And this happens on your reading on Monday. When you read the Bible and read and you study, you come up with a learning content or your outline. So I probably will put it this way. I would say the result of giving, verse 1. And I will say the mode of giving, verse 2. And I will say the priority of giving, verse 3 and 4. There you go. That's my teaching content at Matthew 6:1-4. Okay. Here's an example. Page 168, the top paragraphs. What is the verse? Yeah. And what is the big idea? There you go. The idea is do not worry, but trust. And what's the content outline, or what is the material outline? Notice how it's outlined there. This is the presentation outline. The question is, what should we do when we feel worrying about something? Well, number one, the verse says, don't be anxious, so don't worry. Number two, pray without ceasing. So point number 2 is pray. And then number 3, and in everything, give thanks, for this is the will of God. So thank God. And then, so you see that outline? Very simple, right? That's just the outline of Philippians 4:6-7. And then what will happen next? Then God's peace will guard our hearts. So if you're writing a lesson on our form, your teaching content or teaching outline, remember it's an outline, okay? It's not a dissertation. It's It's an outline. It's just 1, 2, 3. And it outlines the whole section of your Bible verses. That goes to the outline there, and that is how it works. Okay, let's go to the next example, page 169. Page 169. Okay. Randy, are you with us? Marion, are you with us too? Okay. All right, let's move on with Keiki. Keiki, we are in 169 of Newton's book.
Mhm.
He has an example on the top. Go ahead and tell us what text it came from.
This is situation. The church and he lost his mommy.
Same as the last one.
Same as the last one?
A little more added to it.
Uh-huh. It's Philippians 4, 4 to 7.
Yeah.
And Kiki, do you have the book or do you have the
I have the book
okay.
that started in this learning situation, right?
169, and you have the red book with Newton, right? This deep heart teaching.
Yep, that's I'm using the Kindle.
Oh, you're using a Kindle. Got it. All right. So it is the he uses an example, and I don't know what page it is on your Kindle, but if it is in chapter 9, I'm sorry, it is in chapter 10, not even chapter 9 now, chapter 10. And he uses the second example. The title is Jumping into Jesus's Arms.
I'm so sorry. You wanted me to read it, yeah?
I want you to read the content outline of that example.
That example. I'm not sure if I'm on the right page on this Kindle, and it started with, in this learning situation, I might begin by telling the children.
Before that.
Okay, before that. Okay.
Look at the word. You just go up a few lines and you see the word content outline. He uses Philippians 4, 4 to 7 as an example.
Okay.
You see it?
The second example I will use is
You see the word jumping into Jesus' arms? It says Philippians.
Yep, I got it. Sorry about that.
Good.
Jumping into Jesus' arms, text Philippians 4, 4 to 7.
Reading. Keep reading.
A big idea. When we are scared, we need to jump into Jesus' arms. The content outline what it means to jump into Jesus' arms. Rejoice in Jesus, talk to Jesus, thank Jesus, forget your worries. What will happen when you jump into Jesus' arms? Peace.
Very simple outline. Okay, very simple outline. This is what will appear on your lesson plan. Of course, a more detailed lesson plan is to explain each point, but we're not after that. We're just after the content outline. Okay, because your exegetical work is already in form number 1, your 3, right? And then a part of your exegetical is your content outline, which will appear on form number 5. Okay. Thank you, Vicky. All right. So here's another example of content outline. By the way, when you have the time, page 170 to 171, great reading there. The 6 purposes of why we get into the Word of God. Okay. It gives an example again in Ephesians 5, 1 to 16. And look at the content outline. 172, 173. 172, 173. Okay, and KK, just pass a little forward on your Kindle there. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Randy, are you with us? Okay, let's go. Jean, are you with us, Jean? I want you to read with us, okay? The lesson outline is Flirting with the Dark Side. That's a title. Very creative title, right? Okay. The text is Ephesians 5, 1 to 16. What's the big idea, Jean? Read to us. Okay.
Okay, lesson outline titled Flirting with the Dark Side. And text Ephesians 5, 1 to 16.
Big idea.
Oh, big idea. Okay. In order to live as a fragrance offering to God within a decaying world, we must never participate in anything connected to the deeds of darkness.
Okay, so the big idea here is the Bible side. And then when it comes to the purpose of the lesson, it's student side. Danny, read to us that. 173 top.
Okay, the lesson purpose, the students will live their lives reflecting the fragments of Christ's love while refusing to participate in anything connected to the deeds of darkness.
Okay. You notice that the purpose is focused on the student. The purpose is to help the student reflect the fragrance of Christ by not being connected to the deeds of the darkness. Okay, Randy, you with us? I saw some thumbs up a while ago. Go ahead and mute your microphone. We're in 173. Look at the content outline. These are 16 verses. How many outlines does the author have?
They have three.
3 outlines. And what are they?
Three, Pastor. So the first one is imitate Christ's love to others within this evil world. The second, make a radical break from the depths of the darkness, sexual immorality.
Okay, move on to the point 3 now.
Okay, point 3, outline. Take advantage of opportunities to be a light in this evil world.
Okay, so 3 major points, 16 verses. That's what will appear on form number 5 on the content outline. All right, so starting on form number 5, you are now going to work with your Bible verses that you have chosen. Okay, you're now going to work with the Bible verses that you have chosen, the 8 to 9 verses that you have. You're going to show the content outline. Don't give me too much, just the outline. In this case, he has 3 points. Okay, he doesn't really need to, you don't really, if this is your verse, you don't really need to give me the sub points. Just give me the major points. Okay, and then notice there's a cognitive, affective, volitional, and behavioral goals there. Okay, and that's what happens on the book. What's the first one? Hook. The next one is book. Okay, we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to look at the last 2 principles. The look and the took. All right, the look and the took. Come back with me in the next 5 minutes. Okay? They're the 4 elements in review. Is the hook, then the book. And the last two is the look and the took. Okay, let's rehearse. Page 171. What is the hook? It's the beginning of your lesson. Okay, it gets the students interested, connected. Number one, it gets 171. It gets attention. Number two, it surfaces a need. 172. Number three, it sets a goal. And then number four, 173. What is it? I know. What is one more thing? No. You do that at the end. All right. It's a transition to Bible study. Yes. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. You guys you have to think, because number four, he just puts it one more thing, but it's not a principle, right? The principle is a hook is a natural segue to the book. Nice. All right. So what's the book? It's when you teach the Bible, right? It's when you dive in. That's when you do your exegesis. But at the same time, you present it with cognitive and affective and volitional and behavioral domains in mind as you're teaching it. And then you're unveiling your outline content, right? Okay, like what Gani said. You read to it what now, Gani, what you say, verse 1 and then verse 2. That's how you teach, right? And exactly that's what we're trying to suggest. You go through it one verse at a time, but throw in the proper learning environment as you're teaching each verse. That's the book. Now we're in the last two. The look, page 174. All right. It says, when the students understand that the Bible says, it's time to move to what? Implication. All right. What is it trying to say? Okay. The Bible says knowledge must be tempered with wisdom from the Spirit, Colossians 1:9. So the next step, the teacher must plan for in the lesson preparation process involving guidance, the class, or guiding the class to discover the what? Underline this. Discover and grasp the relationship of the truth that just studied to what? To daily living. So the look section is like, so what now? Uncle Gani is teaching us verse 2. So what now? Right? Brother June is teaching us verse 4. So what now? You have to connect that. And that's what the look is all about. And there are many ways to do this. This is what we call the PLA. This is the possible learning activity. Right? We have so much. Like what? Drama, skits, question and answer, small groups, parables, songs. By the way, the word songs are not there. You need to add that. Sometimes you just have to play a song. Like, for example, he uses an example of one of them MTV's what is the name of that song group? Sometimes you just gotta play that in order to emphasize the lesson. On this case, what did Richard and Bredfeld give us an example? The Adult Bible Fellowship. They used something. What is it? Look at the last paragraph. Not a quotation now. But the last paragraph says, Pete recognized that his Adult Bible Fellowship was comprised of Christians with a wide range of life experiences to draw upon. So he decided, read with me, that he would tap a wealth of experience in the group by using what? A combination of case study and questions and answers. Right. Okay. So what's the case study? Right. It's a story that happened in the past, and you give it to the students, and then you get the inquiring minds together and say, let's analyze what you guys think happened here. And always analyze it according to the theme of your verse, right? And the theme of the verse here is Ephesians 4:31 to 32. So that's the look, by looking at the implications. Okay? And then the took. But in the last segment, the took. Let's read together the first paragraph of the took. Ready? Begin. But like vaccination, the word of God is of no effect until we can say it took. Response is required. Underline that. That's what the word took means. So Gene, when you're teaching and your students don't know how to apply what you're teaching, you just taught, but you didn't give them the application. So you want to give them an application. You're going to ask them, okay, how are you going to apply this? Response is required. All right. So if you look at figure 13 of this chapter, you have this sort of a process. Okay. A hook. What does a hook do? It gains attention. It surfaces a need. It sets a goal, and it leads into Bible study. That's the present time. And then when you study the book, you're going to the past, because the Bible was written in the past, right? And then when you go to the look, you go back to the present again. And when you go to the took, you're actually helping the students prepare for the future. And that's figure 13. All right. So we have enough time. And I'm going to open. And Claude, the exercise is very simple, okay? I want you to follow the screen so that you know how to do this, okay? So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to go to the classroom, right? And then you're going to see the classwork, okay? Stream, classwork. All right. The first thing you're going to see on top is graded. By now, you would have turned in your form number 1. Okay. Are you lost? I need a nod.
I'm not lost.
Was that Claude? Okay, moving on. Form number 1. By now, you should have finished form number 2. By now, you would have finished form number 3. And by today, you would have finished form number 4. And only 2 people have turned in their lesson. But that's okay. Right? Let's look at form 3. How many people submitted? 2 turned in, and 8 were already graded. Good job. All right. That means we already graded 8 students. Okay. And 2 turned in more. How about form number 2? Oh, 5 graded, and there are 6 pending. So I have to study this, and some of you gave your submitted. How about form number 1? Oh, only 1 have turned in.
You didn't say to submit form 1, though.
That's right, because it's due next week. That's right. Thank you, Claude. All right, but let me just, I'm interested who turned in. So I'm going to click the word turn in. Who is this person? Danny. But it's blank. You were testing. I would do the same thing too. So, but in order for you to get this, I need to send it back to you. So here it is. So at least you could see what I do when I see your paper. More to follow. I like that. There you go. So I'm going to have to return this to you. Return and then return. I'm not going to put any grade yet. All right. So now it's back in your corner. And now, so when I refresh it, it says 0 again. All right. Meaning I have no submission. Okay. 0. Good. All right. Now let's focus on form number 5. Okay. Form number 5. Remember now, by form number 5, you should have already completed this, because after this are your bigger graded projects. Okay, you'll be coming up with lessons for children, lessons for youth, and these lessons for adult. Those are your bigger graded projects. This forms 1 to 5, they're worth 20% of your grade cumulatively. Forms 6, 7, and 8, they are form 6 is worth 15%. I'm sorry, 10%. Form 7 is 10%. Form 8 is 10%. So they're big grades. You miss that, you miss a lot. You miss any of forms 1 to 5, it probably will not give a dent, because they are part of the 20%. That makes sense? Except for form number 1. Form number 1 is 10%. It's form 2 to 5, together with your attendance and participation, that's part of the 20%. I'm not making sense. Some of you are looking at me like, you look like Manapua, Pastor. Okay. So what happens on form number 5? You click. And Claude, you got to go to the graded now. Okay. Don't go to the lecture, which is week 6. Don't go there. Go to graded.
I'm just looking right now because of, at what you're doing and just observing it.
Okay. So you're able to open it?
Not on this machine, because
try it, because it should, even in that machine. Okay, let me open this.
Graded.
Here's what's going to happen. You're going to write the date of when you're going to teach. Everybody look at the screen. You're going to write the date of when you're going to teach. It's this Sunday I'm going to teach. Write that date. The reason as a teacher, you're going to have plenty of this lesson plan. All right, so you're just trying to make it order. Where you're going to teach, and when you say file under, what book? Joshua. So that every time you have a lesson that falls in Joshua, all Joshuas are together. Make sense? Our target group, this is your people. This is your students. And remember, portion of this is give a little substance of just, these are men of the church. Well, no, I'm looking for more than that. Remember, form number 3, there's social analysis, there's the cognitive, what's their physical handicaps, and things like that. Put some substance in it. Passage, Joshua 1, 1-9, right? Cross-references. Remember, on your Monday, you have done some reading, you have done some studies, and you would have some cross-references that you've already stumbled across. Put it there. Okay, your Monday product goes here. And it's only one statement. Don't give me your 3 points, just give me your one statement there. Okay? Your teaching idea is, this is your purpose. Purpose of lesson. This is student purpose. Your purpose for the student. Okay? So the purpose of this lesson is to teach my student on how to trust Jesus and read the Bible. So that's the teaching idea. Now, something different. Instead of a 4 bracket, we made, you know what? Let's make a 4 bracket out of this. Yeah? Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I am going to add, give me a second here. Insert table 4. Okay. So we're going to say cognitive. We're going to say affective, volitional, behavioral, feed, and are mind. I'm going to erase this. And you're going to fill up the delete 3 rows. And I'm going to say domain purposes. Let's not even put it there. Okay. And then remember, you are going to put your PLA, possible learning, what? Activity. Thank you. All right, so you put a goal. And then your PLA is there at the bottom. All right, good. And then you're gonna go your hook. How do you gonna start your first 15 minutes? This is your first 15 minutes. This is your book. All right. The book section. Let me put this under there. Is you're gonna put your content outline. Okay, remember your content outline? Remember the examples? Remember, it's an outline. So don't type in a lot of words there. Just say number 1, verse 1, number 2, verse 2 and 3, number 3, verse 4 to 11. That's it. Okay, methodology. Okay, meaning how are you going to teach each content outline, which really is in line with your cognitive, affective, volitional, behavioral. They all mash up together under methodology. Okay. And then what is your look? How are you gonna end that? And your took. All right. And let me see who's logged in here. Kenny is logged in. Good. Okay, good. I'm gonna stop sharing here, and I'm gonna go back to Richard and to give you the example of it. Okay. And this is found in page 180 and 181. Everybody go to page 180 and 181. Uh-huh. Good. Okay, let's look at a sample. Are you there on page 180? Okay, good. What is his verse?
Hebrews 10, 19 to 25.
All right. Without reading too much, because we don't have time. What is Hebrews 10, 19-25? What is it about? The priesthood of the believers. Okay? And so what is his exegetical idea? What was the product of his Monday work? Okay? June, let's start with you. Go ahead and read that for us. Unmute your microphone.
Exegetical idea.
Broke up bad,
Priesthood,
Pastor.
believer. Sorry. The priesthood of the believer, accomplished by the sacrificial work of Christ, along with Christ's priestly ministry, calls every Christian to draw near to God, hold fast to his faith, and spur on believers so that each one might persevere through difficult times and difficult situations.
Pretty straightforward. Yeah. And you notice there's no student-related material there. This is just a Bible information. This is what we read from verse 19 to 25 and put it in one statement. Okay, Danny, that's what we're going to do on your Joshua 1, 1 to 9. I mean, it's 9 verses, it's long. You're going to put it in one statement. You want to hit it with keywords. Look at some of his keywords. The priesthood of the believer. Well, because it appeared in Hebrews 10. So he's borrowing those words. Sacrificial work. That's Hebrews 10:20 right there. The priestly ministry of Christ. That's a theological term there. Perseverance. The trial in difficult situations. All of these are words from Hebrews 10, 19 to 25. He just borrows it and make a statement out of that. All right, so you don't have to recreate this. That makes sense? You have the same verse? You have Joshua 1, 1 to 9 too? Okay. Can you change? Can you? Should I ask you or should I ask him to change? Okay. All right. So, let me just find out. Make sure we don't have similar verses here. Jean, what's your verse? Okay, while she's looking, June, what's your verse? I'm just asking so that we don't have similar verses. June? Okay, Claude, what's your verse?
I'm trying to figure out where you're at. I see a target group passage, and you're reading from the target group here? For the verse?
Would you say that again?
I'm looking at on page 180, right? He read the target group. Now you asking for a verse? I'm trying to figure out.
Oh, no. I am asking for your project verse. Each student, you know your form number 1?
Yeah,
exegetical paper.
Romans 4:3.
That's your Bible verse.
Romans 4:3.
Okay, you have to choose 8 to 9 verses, not just one.
It's Romans chapter 4, 1 to 8.
Hey, I like Claude. Claude, you're so easy to work with.
You went over it, but in class, but I'm attacking it from a different angle.
That's fine. Yeah, however you want to do it. That's your verse right there. Okay, Bev, what's your Bible verse?
Still debating, Pastor, but I'm pretty comfortable with Proverbs 4, I believe. So I think I might go with that.
Is that the first 8 verses?
No, 4:10 to 23.
Oh, Psalms, Proverbs. Oh. Did you say 10 to 23?
Yes. I'm still analyzing. I'm sorry, all the way to 27. I'm sorry.
10 to 27. Okay, that's very long.
Yes.
And if you were to use the paragraph boundaries, it makes sense to pick it up from 14 to 22 and then 23
Okay.
to 27 rather than 10 to 27.
Okay.
Okay, so look at chapter 4 again and look at the paragraph boundaries of a typical Bible version. And then out of that, try to see where it begins and try to see where it ends. So it's try to go with a natural flow. All right.
Okay.
Good. Excellent. I like Proverbs 4. That's a huge great passage. Okay, let's move on to who else do I have? Keiki, what's your Bible verse?
Yeah, so I wanted to study the Malachi chapter 2, verse 17 to chapter 3, verse 10.
Okay. Hang on. Malachi chapter 2,
17.
17.
Mhm.
That's only one verse.
All the way to chapter 3, verse 10.
3:10.
I
Okay,
think there's 10 verses, I think.
I see. Okay, and I see why you're reaching back to verse 17, and that's okay. Okay, good. All right. Randy, tell me a Bible verse.
Pastor, I think I'll go with the Luke, the parable of Good Samaritan.
Okay, that's Matt. What's your verse?
Luke 10.
(29 to 37).
Yes, I think.
Okay. All right, that's acceptable. And all your verses I've approved. June, your Bible verse. Galatians, Ephesians, right? Okay, one moment. Ephesians 1, 3 to 14. Okay. Nice. Woo. Guys gonna have fun with this. Okay. And I asked yours. Yeah.
John chapter 21, verse 1 to
1 to 14. Yeah, that's the whole story. It's a narrative passage. Love that passage. Excellent. Jean, John 3, 1 to 9. Let me suggest 1 to 8. Yeah, because verse 9 is a question. And if you hook with 9, you have to continue all the way to 21. So just pause it on 8. Good. All right. And Danny? Okay. 1 to 9 fits well. Yeah, 1 to 9. Good. All right. Well, all your verses are approved, and work on it. Your exegetical paper is due this Thursday, and you have the format already on the classroom. And let me rehearse that once more, just in case you go, what? You're right. You might say, well, what format? Well, here is the format. And the way we did the formatting is very general. It's not specific. It's nothing hard. It's called biblical interpretation. And when you look at view assignment, it says you are to write an overview. And I gave you instruction. Just follow the instruction. And then I gave you the description of the text. And you are to make a list of questions. So make it a question and answer. 1, here's a question, and here's the answer. Okay? And maybe 1 to 10 questions. All right. And then finally, your central truth. It is a 1 simple sentence. So your exegetical paper is going to look like overview, 1 statement, description of the text, bullet points, 10 questions with answers and a little explanation of the answers. And then your conclusion is the central truth of the lesson. 1 sentence again, and submit. Got it? Good. Make it simple. Don't make it hard. I'm not looking for Greek words. I'm not looking for fancy approaches. Just as simple as you could. This is form number 1. Yeah, form number 1. Which should have been due since last week, but I extended it because I made a mistake. Okay? And then your form number 5 is also due next week. Ayun. That's why you have to do a lot of work now. Okay?
So what about form number 4? That's due next week too, right?
Well, technically, form 2, 3, and 4 is due the week it was assigned. So form 2 was on week 2, form 3 was on week 3, form 4 on week 4. But I accept late submissions, so please keep in submitting them anyway, because the important thing is we're building your material. Okay? And by the end of this class, you would have a 7-page portfolio of your lesson plan from form 1 to form 7. Pretty neat, yeah? Yeah, love it. Okay, then we sell it for a product, for a profit. Okay. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, we go to our closing thoughts, and I guess we're done. Okay, we're gonna do a round robin. This is where you give me your final thoughts, your questions. This is just like every time we close our session, I give you some time to talk because I need to hear if you understand what we've been going through. So let me just start off to say, from week 1 to up to week 6, this is 6th week, we have been teaching you how to prepare yourself on becoming a good Bible teacher. We started with the calling of a teacher, and then we said, is the teacher ready to teach? Right? And then once you prepare yourself, we now go to form number 1. That's your exegesis. You have to study the Bible, read the Bible, study the Bible, and then make your observations. Okay? So that's your next step. Then when we went to week number 2 and 3, we went to form number 2. We started teaching about not just the lesson, but now we started looking at the student. So we looked at the teacher, we looked at the lesson, actually exegesis, the Bible, and then we looked at the student. And the reason we're looking at the student is because we want to find out what is the best learning environment for the student. If I'm going to teach them this Bible verse. And so we went through a cognitive domain, affectual domain, volitional domain, behavioral domain. And we have a lot of goals there, But then on form number 3, we suggest that let's find out who the students are, right? And so you gave me an idea of who your students are, their physical capability, cognitive capability, social analysis capability, and things like that. And then when we get to week 4 or form number 4, we said now we need to have a possible learning activity for each of these domains. Right. And then last week and this week, we talked about the HBLT principle. That is the, yeah, there you go. You got it. All right. Okay. Excellent. Okay, let's start off with Claude. Why don't we start with you? Give us your closing statement, any observations you may have.
Closing statement about it. Well, about observation.
Yeah, what do you think so far?
I think it's pretty good because if you look at the whole class, right? We started from the beginning and now we're getting to the point where I think next week we'll be able to give a lesson.
Yeah.
We will have the main idea of it because that's what the class is about, to learn how to give a lesson. I mean, I heard of this creative Bible teaching book, but this one, Deep Heart, I think the two go together. Without it, I think we'd be a lot weaker because you get some of your charts out of both books. So I think I'll be ready to give a lesson in the future just about on anything.
That's good. That's good. I'm really excited to transitioning you all from lesson preparation from lesson delivery, because lesson delivery now is going to prepare you to deliver to children, to youth, and to adults. Yeah, that's really the next steps. But appreciate you, brother. All right, Kiki, let's go with you and tell us your observation, thoughts.
Thank you, Pastor. It's just very interesting, the OK principles who took. It's a good way to approach the students and complete the whole lesson.
Yeah, if you really look at it, it's very practical, yeah. But the hook book, look and took, is not an independent system. It fits on the whole system. So, and I find it very interesting. I wish I'd known the principle a lot sooner when I started teaching. Probably made me a better teacher. All right, thanks, Katie. Appreciate it. Okay, Randy, let's go with you.
There's a lot of to absorb in being a teacher, and your main purpose is to transform the student, and within that it's going to be the assessment. Yeah, so whether you are a creative teacher or a good teacher, but yeah, just keep on praying, Pastor, because we started already teaching Sunday school, so we are learning a lot of these things, how to systematize and in a chronological order. I think that's it, Pastor.
Hey, Randy, thank you. Excellent. All right, let's go back here in the classroom. June, let's pick it up with you, your closing thoughts.
I learned a lot, Pastor. I know the process. So it's a very good thing to Saturday for Sunday school, especially on Sundays. So I go through this class, students as well. So as previous to this, praying, reading, studying lessons, etc. Thank you.
You guys got it all cut out for you, some of you, because for June and some of our Turkish language speaking teachers, they have to translate some of their materials into their language. So I don't know, June, how do you do that? Do you just translate it on a whim?
Yes, Pastor. Five step teaching.
I have to beg my people how to help me translate it to their language. At the time of time, I'll pause in my preaching and said, so what's the Ilocano word for this? Ilocos. Ilocano. All right. Okay, Brother Gani, unmute your microphone and speak to us.
Good night, everybody.
Sweet dreams.
As we keep going on, every time we meet, I keep learning and trying to absorb what we are studying and what we are accomplished. So someday that I can be at least able to share the message of God. Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to learn, how to be effective teachers. And by doing this, it gives us steps, step by step to follow and to reach our goals. Thank you, and thank you, Pastor, for being patient with us.
Amen. And you know, the truth is, this is so much material, right? But it's a very systematic approach in teaching. And just maybe, you're probably going to apply 30% of what you've learned. And that's okay. As long as you understand that there's a big picture and you get to choose and pick which one you want. Okay. It'll be great if you could apply all from Monday to Saturday. Really, there are some non-negotiables, such as reading the Bible, studying the Bible. If you're not doing it, well, you get in big trouble. So, yeah, absorb all these principles and then pick and choose eventually. But for now, try to practice all of these. Get your hands wet and use it and see how it feels. Yeah. Put together for your Sunday lesson, put together a cognitive profile, your affective profile, etc. You'd be so surprised that following this systematically is going to offer you a lot of tools to be an effective teacher. Okay. All right, Gene.
Well, Pastor, each time I attended this class, learning more and more, and I try to read the Bible and study and try to memorize my verses. Yeah. And I hope that someday I will be able to apply what I'm learning from here.
Okay. Well, hopefully you apply it soon because you're teaching this Sunday.
Okay. With your help.
I'll apply it soon. You better apply it soon. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Pastor, for teaching us.
Danny.
Let's see. Like I said, a lot of information to absorb. I think one of my weakness or hard part is I look too far into the answer and gotta learn to keep it short and simple. So I don't want to go too far into it. So I got to kind of, that's my balance right now. And I am a little bit behind, but they'll be caught up in the next day or so.
I wish there's an easy way to say what is he exactly looking for, right? There's an easy way. When I was grading your forms 2 and 3, I had to correct a lot of your grammars, and I have to question as to this is not volitional. This is more cognitive. And so when we place it under cognitive, your volitional is empty. So now you have to put another one there. So I wish there's an easy way to come up with a criteria, but really at the end of the day, it's up to you what are the right simple statements you could write out for your lesson. Yeah. Good. All right, Bev, let's go with you, Bev.
Thank you, Pastor. These are some, to me, some deep theological, systematic way of really teaching the Word of God. But I'm glad I'm taking it. And I really want God to speak to me on the exegetical part of what I will be sharing, because I do not want to misinterpret or misrepresent him in any way or form. So I'm thankful for this class, and I thank you, Pastor.
All right. You know, Bev, you reminded me, I'm taking a class right now. It's called Spiritual Formation Class. It's a 15-week class. And we're going through a book called Christian Disciplines and the Kingdom Concept of the church today. Really interesting. And it taught me a few things. The first, we're actually in our 4th week of this class. The first thing that I've learned is we all need to step back and talk to God about our Bible lesson. You know how it is when you're just cognitively involved. You're just reading, you're underlining, you're memorizing. That's brain power for you. The spiritual disciplines of being quiet before God, is being able to just sit down there at the foot of Jesus, right? It's like the Martha Mary story. Remember the Martha Mary story? It was not a problem until Martha complained. If Martha didn't complain, he probably wouldn't even make it to the scripture. But Martha complained and said, Lord, look, Mary's just sitting there listening to you. And here am I'm busy doing something. I guess the lesson there is, as Bible teachers, we need to be able to step back. We love to do things. We forget to become what Christ wants us to be. So all of these are just lessons. We've not become a fountain of life for us. We aim so hard to change other people, and we fail to see the change in us. So just maybe as Bible teachers on Monday or every Monday, when you read scriptures and you study scriptures, somewhere on the portion of your day, you just step back and talk to God. And talk scriptures back to him. And let him reveal to you what he needs to change in you first. You'd be so surprised that the transformational teaching is not only for your students, it's also for you. Excellent. Linda, any closing thoughts before we go?
No, just thank you again for your teaching.
All right, excellent. Let's pray together. Our Father, thank you for revealing yourself to us. We have been given a solemn and sober task to teach you to many people. We begin to understand that it is a daily task. It's not a Saturday afternoon task. Right from the get-go, you teach us to transform us first before transforming others. Lord, I pray for these, your teachers. I pray that you would equip them and guide them, that they would bring the Spirit of Christ in every teaching level to all of the students that needed to hear. Father, we pray for the rest of our students who are not with us. We pray that you would guide them and be with them as well. We give you thanks in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.